All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your market recap for Thursday. It is Thursday. The week is almost over, and it is May 18th. Wow, what a day. Another big day for growth names, momentum names, a lot of different areas of the market. Pretty good participation. Breadth wasn't as great as yesterday, but follow through from yesterday. Remember, yesterday we had really nice breadth, and we haven't really been getting too many of those follow through type days, especially with all the events that we've got going on. A lot of noise, a lot of macro noise. So I'll get into some of that. First things first, risk disclaimer: everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Please read the full risk disclaimer there. Also, if the video is a little bit fuzzy, YouTube does take a while to render the video, so just give it a little bit more time. So let's look at the performance really quick. You could see I've got highlighted up here. Of course, I've got this sorted by the percentage change over the day, and it was the Qs again. They remember that the small caps, micro caps had a big day yesterday. Those went negative for a good portion of the day, and then bounced back quite nicely in the afternoon. So again, we haven't seen that move or rotation over to that area of the market yet, other than 1 or 2 days of performance from that group. And you could look at some things. I tweeted out a couple things earlier about value versus growth, just to kind of look at what's transpired here. For example, over the last month, and you could see this is the VUG and VTB ETF, growth is up almost 4% for the month, and value is down 2%. So again, this has certainly not been an everything rally. The breadth has been suspect. Some days, actually a lot of days, a lot of people talking about that. But if you're a fast trader, or if you can pick up on some of these trends, then you've been able to capitalize on what has been working really well. And again, of course, it's the bigger names, but look at the semis today. They were up 3.5%. This is already after a very decent move and a heck of a lot of participation. There's about 6 or 7 names, I would say, that really have that really great momentum to them. Interesting, and this is why I kind of look at this spreadsheet and do this end of day recap, because you will find some things that you maybe didn't see. Nobody really talking about energy today, but that was actually up nicely. It's kind of an odd to see with things like internet and things like software that did really well today, but there's also some energy stocks in there too. So not not bad in terms of that. I see all 3 of those ETFs, energy ETFs, that were positive for the day. So let me just get into a couple quick things here that I wanted to mention. Of course, just a quick plug before we kind of get going. This is where you find out about Tribeca Trade Group. Tribeca Trade Group. It's tribecatradegroup.com. You could go right to the homepage. You could see a couple examples that we put. Where I mainly swing trade, but depending on what's going on in the market, I may do a little bit more day trading. We'll talk about that in just a second. But you could go to our services and products tab, and you can find out just a little bit more about Tribeca Trade Group. So just quick plug. Also, if you notice that I send out some days, free right now for everybody, just, quick index updates. We talk about our out of the box. This is a proprietary scan that we use. I was talking about this morning, right? Big test, right? For the S&P today. And again, it wasn't all, straightforward today, but we did make it out of the value area and out of the range, right? I mean, I hear some people say, the market's overbought and so forth. Well, clearly it's not for the S&P, because we haven't gone anywhere in the S&P, right? And again, the participation has been pretty thin, because again, if you look at the Qs, which we will in a second, we can kind of we can compare the two. But yes, that's a now nice clean break out of the value area. I do have this broadening type formation, so maybe we might get hung up in here, but it's taken a while, right? You've got to be patient, but we did have the S&P move to the upside, and you can see there's not. I don't have any of those red lines, virgin point of controls. Again, once we broke this trend, right? For a while we were making lower highs. I mentioned this in a video, I think a couple nights ago, that we had a similar phenomenon going down over here where we were making lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. We washed down, right? And then we came back very strong, right? So there's been trading opportunities, even though that we haven't been trending to the upside over the last month. There has certainly been trading opportunities if you really are observant and doing things like this, watching for a trend line break and then going from there. So again, when we look at the cues, I mean, absolutely on fire, in terms of what's been going on here. Again, the break, this has been trending now for a while. In yesterday's video, I mentioned that, yes, we're at resistance for the year. We have one more day, of course, to go to the weekend, to get through this week. And of course, it's a big day at that. Fed Chair Powell speaks tomorrow at 11 o'clock. We'll see if that brings some type of volatility. I can't tell you, I don't have a crystal ball, what he's going to say. We also have a monthly option expiration for tomorrow too. So that might add, a little bit of volatility into the equation, but I would watch 330, 231. Somebody asked me on Twitter, they're like, hey, does that mean like, that's it? Like, the market, that's it for the rally, because we're at the top of value for the year. And always, the situation is when you get to either support or resistance level, it doesn't mean that it's going to get rejected. It just means it's a very significant area of the market. If there's enough volume and enough buyers, you'll get through resistance, no problem. So it just becomes an area that of significance, because it is, we're using volume at price, and it's roughly one standard deviation of all of all the activity from last year. So if we get above, if we can close above and stay above 332, 31, then the trend continues, right? The music keeps playing, and the next area of resistance that I see is 341. So again, it's not that far up, but that's another volume at price area, and that's based on this version point of control in here. Let's talk about small caps really quickly. Again, they were all over the place today, right? They started, if you saw where we were pre-market, they were leading again, right? But, again, they're going in and they're kind of shaking. There's a shakeout, right? We went back and we were down about 0.5%. And then, straight on from the afternoon, buyers are coming in. And again, I don't know the reason. I don't know if it's an options expiration thing. I don't know if it's because shorts are covering. It doesn't really matter all that much. What matters is that you have a support level to trade off of, and you're watching things and noting where that you've got some support, which was down at 174.32, and we did hold that for the day, right? That's the important thing. I would say don't try to overthink things. Just to talk about a couple things that I am concerned about, right? And this is why I was a net seller today, is that we continue to see things like the dollar going higher. I don't really have a great explanation for, why the market is overlooking that there's big dollar strength. We're not over where we were in March, so that's a good thing, but we are dealing with a stronger dollar the last 2 weeks. Also, right, interest rates. Now, they're not, and this is the 30-year, and the interest rates are not as high as the short end of the curve, which I will bring up for you. All right, so here's just quickly what interest rates look like across the curve. You can see the 30-year is still 3.9%, whereas the 2-year rate, is 4.25. And if you know T-bills, then those are over 5%. So yes, we have an inverted yield curve, and for now, the level isn't as high as it was, just like with the dollar, it wasn't as high as it was back in the beginning of March. But yes, this is not a good pattern, right? It does indicate that you have a breakdown here in prices out of this range. So yes, what I tend to do, I talked about just a few minutes ago that I swing trade more than I day trade. But when I see things like this, a stronger dollar, higher yields, right, it makes me want want to day trade more. Now, luckily in this market, we're getting things that are trending for the day. So, you are able to, if you don't feel comfortable with a stronger dollar and with higher interest rates, then, you can, slim down your positions and day trade a little bit more, because the market is giving you certainly giving you those opportunities, right? It's not like we're not getting any movement like we've seen in weeks past. Things are really are really moving. So I wanted to talk about just a couple different areas. Of course, the semiconductors, we can start with them because they've been so strong. We're almost right at that version point of control. A lot of trades, even though I got out of Lam Research yesterday, right? I mean, what a monster move this has been. And sometimes that's the case, right? The more that something goes sideways and then when it breaks the range, things can get pretty fun. Broadcom, this was one I just put on 2 days ago. This is AVGO. And I did take this trade. I did take this trade off today. What an aggressive move to the upside. And again, the same thing with NVIDIA, which I took off in my trading account yesterday. It hit my price target. Now I still, as I mentioned in yesterday's video, I still have a position in my longer term trend trading portfolio, which TTG members have access to. But yeah, I mean, maybe this continues to run into its earnings date. Don't forget it's going to report, what is that, next week on 5/24. But it's the biggest move that this is the biggest day that we've seen so far. I mean, just really aggressive moves. Also, a couple names that reported yesterday, these names kind of got a little bit forgotten about, but look at the move in Synopsys. Huge move, 8.6%. I was saying that I liked the chart setup yesterday, but this is just a monster move and breakout. And this could be another, possible, doesn't have to be the leader, but it could definitely be one of the semi names that lead. And another name that goes, very closely with this was a name that I've traded a couple months ago, but haven't traded it since it reported its last earnings report. It was Cadence Systems, right? I don't think it had a bad report back in here. Because it did recoup some of that and then it kind of revisited. But again, those two names, they like to move together. So I found that very interesting. Another name that gets AI attention is this SMCI, which we covered in yesterday's video. Again, I hold this in the TTG trend portfolio. I have it as a small weight, but it's in there. And up another 6.6%. I mean, look at the move since it reported earnings. It was about $100. It's moved 64%, right? So, I mean, it's just amazing some of these moves that have taken place. One of the hot stocks today was I was typing NVIDIA, but it was Netflix, right? They announced that they're doing well with their subscriber move, and this had a huge day. I did not trade this one today. We talked about the setup in the live session pre-market, but up 9%. Congratulations if you got involved in this one. A couple names that we talked about in yesterday's video. Uber made the turn, right? So we talked about this, like I said, at the end of the day yesterday. I did trade this one today. I was a little late because I was, dealing with, existing positions and taking profits in them, but I did get involved in it today. This small company called Apple. I'm joking, of course, but I like the setup in this one. I'm not sure if we went over this in yesterday's video, but this was one of the setups that I had mentioned for members this morning. If we go back to this morning, somewhere in here. Yeah, it's been consolidated. It was 747 this morning. Apple's consolidating since earning has a little ways to get above the 1 hour value area, but sideways. I love that in an uptrend. You just have to kind of be patient and wait for it, and out to new highs. So I did take some profit targets. Again, I've been doing that because this market with all the macro headlines, obviously we don't know for sure if they're going to raise the debt ceiling, but it sounds like they're getting closer to being able to do that. Another one that we talked about in yesterday's video, very similar look, right? Is Chipotle, sideways. And then, once it kind of cleared the 1 hour value area, which I think we went, again, we went over in yesterday's video, but here was your break, a little bit of a retest, and, then up $33 today. So really nice. One area too that I thought was interesting. Yeah, so the home builders, another area that just people are not talking about that much. They haven't been moving as fast, right? There hasn't been the momentum that we've seen in Google and that we've seen in Amazon, recently. But these things are holding up like a champ. And even we had this volatility in the middle of the day, a little bit of profit taking. There was also a headline about the debt deal, and maybe there's not progress from one of our lovely politicians. But you could see how this thing just started to build here, right? We kind of came in a little bit. If you follow the tick index, went negative for the day, but was just watching what the home builders were doing, and there was strength that was coming back into this group. So again, like I said, it's not moving as fast. It was up 1.2%, but I've been holding the ETF, and I've been holding Toll Brothers, which had another monster day. Toll Brothers is going to report. My ultimate target is 68.75, which I hope that gets to before earnings. But if you go through some of these names, it's they're on fire. Many of the names, not all of them, just like tech, it's not every name in tech. I mean, Pulte Homes, look at this thing. It just continues to grind higher. If you're looking for a setup that's kind of new, look at this top build. This is BLD, right? Again, consolidation, breaking the consolidation, and you can look for an exit at 228, which is the VPOC, right? That would be an upside price targets. Just very, very, very strong. Just one other name too, and we'll leave it here for today's video, was DraftKings, right? Again, having to have patience here. Gap up on earnings, comes in, almost fills the earnings gap, or at least into here, and real strong day today, up close to 5% after it touches the 20-day moving average. All right, guys, that is it for today's video. Really nice trading day. Just amazing. I will say this because I try to add perspective. This market has not been, sometimes it's it's easy because there's a lot of really good setups, but it's hard because this is difficult. We normally don't see these types of moves when we have interest rates as high as we do, right? And I already mentioned in the video about the stronger dollar and whether or not the Fed is done raising interest rates. And it's very difficult for some who think about the tape more from a macro perspective on what should and what shouldn't be taking place. But if you're sticking to following price, right, and following where there's relative strength in this market, right, you can do fairly well, and you can position, size your position so that you're comfortable, right, and that you can maintain, right, in some of them, take targets, right. Those are the things that help you kind of stay in the trades. If you put on too big of a trade, the odds are you're going to get shaken out in this tape with all the macro interference that we're dealing with. So just a quick note before we close out for the day. Hope to see you tomorrow in the pre-market session that starts every day at 9:10 in the morning. Have a great night, everybody.